In game development, sometimes having randomness is a necessity for a game. I'm going to go over some of the main things you can do with randomness inside of Armory 3D. Thank you so much for a community member for participating and inspiring me to make this tutorial. I'm going to check out his project right here. You can see there are a lot of things going on. It's sort of a mixture between the core node group and the variable tree video that I made previously. So I'm not going to talk about this project specifically. But if you want to go check it out after this video is done, then I'll leave a link to the description where you can download his git blend file. Armory 3D has a lot of nodes that allow you to control and manipulate randomness inside of your game. We can have controlled randomness, so we can select values between a specific number, and we can also have random randomness. So if we go ahead and get a on keyboard space started node and set this up to a set transform node, so we can modify the object's location every time we press space. We can hook this up to maybe a get transform and then plug it into one of the empties and just add a random output node. So we're going to randomize which output we're going to follow. We can follow the set object transform node that we just set up here, or we can go ahead and duplicate these, and now we can plug them all in, and you can see it's going to randomly select what output we want. So on this time, when we press space, it's going to move it to the red, then to the green, then to the blue, and it's going to randomize which transform it's going to pick completely randomly, so we have no control over this. On the other hand, if we want to actually go ahead and pick a way to alternate between these nodes instead of randomly selecting one, we can go ahead and grab the alternate output node. And this doesn't actually randomly pick it, it just follows in sequence. So number 0 will be the first transform, number 1 will be the next one, number 2 the next one after that. So you can see it goes around in a circle when we modify our output. So this is an alternative to the random output node because it allows you more control. On the other hand, we can actually randomize things like the vector location. So for example, if I get the object location instead of the object's transform, we can go ahead and plug in a vector directly. So we can plug this purple socket in, and now we can see we have three different locations, X, Y, and Z in the minimum and X, Y, and Z in the maximum. So now we can go ahead and input whatever values we want between the minimum and maximum, and anywhere around this 3D environment that we've defined, it's going to be able to set that object to that location. So we're picking a random location in this environment that we selected, that we defined. However, what we can do is we can isolate this. For example, if I only want a single vector to be modified, we can get the vector node, and then we can get a random float node. And since we converted these vectors, these groups of 3 different axes, into a single float value, we can modify the minimum and maximum floats. And I'm inputting the Z axis here, so we're set in the middle where it already is. And now we're only going to modify it in the X axis. So I'm finding what is the furthest we can go by using the transform in the N panel. The transform is only going to be located in -4 to a 4 on the x-axis. Now I've been using transform and obviously location to demonstrate how to use these random nodes, but we can also use it for things like random colors. We have a random color node. So for example, if we plug this up to a light, we can modify the light's color completely randomly. There are a lot more things we can do with this, but sometimes they require more advanced things like using like arrays and stuff like that. Things that I'm probably going to cover in future videos. So for now, I decided to focus more so on random numbers, but also if you use maybe a variable, you can randomize a variable and do a lot of interesting stuff. I made a complete video about variables if you want to go check that out, but here is a small snippet. Here is a random number every time I press space, and the variable gets set to a random number. If I want to instead add a random number to an already existing variable to increment it, then we can also add a math node, set it to add, get the variable, add a random float, and that is going to be set to our variable. So every time we have a random number adding onto our already existing variable. Also, thank you so much for all the community members who have contributed to the list I've actually made on Google Drive. We have a list with all the possible tutorials, and this video itself was one of those on that list. So make sure you go check that out, link in the description, and you can go ahead and write what you want me to make in the future. Or alternatively, if you do have the possibility to create your own tutorials, I would love to have them hosted on this channel. And let the world see what you can do in Armory 3D. My email's in the description. I hope you enjoyed this and got something on this video, and I'll see you again someday.